Hey everybody, this is Matt. I'm coming to you today with a video for any of you that are looking to be first-time home buyers. I want to share with you my top 5 suggestions for what to do when starting to buy a home. Let's get started with my first tip. Tip number 1 is to determine your budget for your potential house payment. You're going to want to figure out all of your bills, your expenses in other areas, and figure out exactly what you are comfortable with spending each month for a house. And when you speak to your lender, you're going to let them know how much you can afford per month, and they will help you determine, given that monthly payment that you're comfortable with, how much home you can purchase. You definitely don't want to overextend yourself and end up buying a house with such a high monthly payment that you can't sustain. Tip number 2 for potential first-time home buyers is to check your credit. You can use something like Credit Karma to get an idea of what your credit score is at any given time, but what I would suggest is going to all of the 3 credit bureaus, that's TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax, and check those individually. It may take a little bit more time, but I think it's more beneficial to go through each one because certain creditors only report to maybe only one of the 3 credit bureaus. So something might be on one credit report but not show up on the others. So you're going to want to go ahead and check all 3. What you can also do is go onto their websites, and when you're checking your credit report, you can do disputes. So I would thoroughly check through all of your credit reports. If there's something that doesn't belong there or that you know isn't you, it may be even fraudulent, it may be something that's really old, because usually the rule of thumb is after 7 years things tend to fall off the credit report. So you can go there and check. If there's something that doesn't look right, you can submit a dispute. It's pretty easy to do online disputes with all of the 3 credit bureaus, and a lot of times if it's correct, they can remove it from the credit report. And I would suggest doing that before you go speak to a lender so that your credit report is as cleaned up as possible. Then to tip number 3, which is after you've cleaned up your credit report and you've checked on it, you're going to want to go speak to a lender. You're going to want to make sure that you have a lender that can give you options for the different types of loans. You might be a first-time home buyer, FHA loan, or a conventional loan. They're going to tell you by looking at your credit report whether or not you qualify for either one of those. And they're going to be able to tell you how much house you can afford given the down payment that you've calculated for yourself that you're comfortable with. It's very important, in my opinion, to get pre-approval from a lender first before you start house hunting. The way the market is so fast right now, where things are coming and going pretty quickly, you don't want to get your heart set on a house that you think might be the perfect house for you. And then by the time you go through the pre-approval process, you might not be qualified for that much for that house, or the house may be gone by the time that you're ready to make an offer on it. So I highly suggest going ahead and speaking to a lender first, getting the pre-approval, knowing how much you can spend, and then start your house hunting with a realtor. Another thing the lender is going to be able to help you with is determining exactly what to do with the negative aspects of your credit report. Let's say you have some things in collections, or you have some debts out there that you need to pay down. You're going to want to speak to the lender first before you start paying everything off. This is because not everything on your credit report is equal. So you're going to want to get expert advice on what you should spend and where you should put your money. So for example, if you have a lot of medical debt, sometimes that doesn't matter as much as other types of debt. So what I would suggest is definitely speak to the lender, and they can give you exactly all the tips and strategies on where you should put your money, on what debts you should be paying down and which debts you shouldn't be paying off. Because depending on your situation, sometimes it's beneficial to have some debt on your account. It may be helping you build your credit, and if you pay it off completely, it would actually have a negative effect or no effect at all. So make sure you speak to a lender before you start paying things off that show up on your credit report. Moving right along to my 4th suggestion, my 4th tip for first-time home buyers is to work with a real estate professional or a realtor. These real estate professionals are experts in your area. They know exactly how to look for what you're looking for, and they have the resources to be able to do those searches that you may not be able to see in the public websites like Zillow or other ones like that. A realtor is also going to be someone that is on your side that's going to help the transaction go as smoothly as possible, as quickly as possible, and as fairly as possible. So we know that everything's done legally and there's no mistakes being made that could negatively impact you and maybe cost you money if you were to go it alone. So I would always suggest having someone on your side. A real estate agent is that person who's going to be fighting for you, helping you to make the best offers so that you're staying competitive. They're going to be looking out for your best interest, And the best part about it, as a first-time home buyer, or as any home buyer, your agent is free, to you at least. The only way they get paid is through the commission that the seller is going to be paying if the transaction closes. So there's really no risk to working with a real estate agent, but there are many, many benefits to choosing one. Brings us to our final tip. Tip number 5 for first-time home buyers is to start saving money. Obviously, you're going to need some money when getting into a home. There are certain costs up front that you need to be ready for. Many times when putting an offer on a home, you'll be required to pay what's called earnest money or a binder fee. This is money that you put down to show that your offer is serious and you want the seller to take your offer seriously. Now, depending on the terms of the contract, the binder is refundable at certain times, but if you do end up purchasing the home, that binder goes towards the closing costs. Which brings us to the next thing that you need to be saving for are those closing costs. But when you get towards the end of the transaction and you get to closing, depending on the contract, each side is going to have different fees that they're going to need to cover. The seller is going to cover certain fees and the buyer covers the other ones. These closing costs can be negotiated between the parties, so it's not set in stone what the buyer and the seller is automatically going to pay for, and your realtor will be able to help you negotiate if you want, for example, the seller to cover all the closing costs or help you bring down those closing costs a little bit. So there is some negotiation there, but you're probably going to have some closing costs in order to finalize the transaction. My suggestion is to have a few grand saved up because you don't want that to become the obstacle that happens at the very end whenever you've already had your heart set on a certain house. So thanks for watching the video today. Hopefully you found some of these tips helpful. And remember, if you have any questions about real estate or if you're ready to buy or sell, please reach out to me anytime. I'm here to help. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.